right, welcome to Starting Five here on the Five Reasons Sports YouTube channel, bright and early at 8:30 in the morning from New York City. My producer today is Maddie Chang. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at Five Reasons Sports. Make sure you check out all the other content on the channel. We've got 3 new episodes of Five on the Floor up there, including our episode that Alex Lito and I did with Eric Reed. We had some fun, about 40 minutes with him, went past, present, and future on the Heat and the Knicks. So we had some stories, but also we talked a lot about this series, which is what we're going to do today. Of course, Miami Heat are up 1-0 against the Knicks. Jimmy Butler's ankle, Julius Randle's ankles, those are the big conversations today. We are going to tell you about our sponsors first, though. Our friend Danny over at All Pro Construction Builders. Go to allproconstructionbuilders.com. As they say, their quality is our specialty. And as we know, hurricanes are South Florida's specialty. So make sure that you get your hurricane storm windows, storm doors. You don't want to be scrambling for shutters at the last minute. They can help you with that too, but really you want to be prepared. We just saw what happened when there's flooding in South Florida. My car saw what happened when there was flooding in South Florida or in Broward County. We know the hurricanes hit the entire area. Make sure you reach out to them. All Pro Construction Builders, the phone number, and you can get your 10% discount if you mention 5 Reasons, 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. As you can see on their Instagram page, they are based in Miami-Dade, Monroe counties, but they do serve Broward as well. They serve all 3 counties down there, and they are a state-certified general contractor. So get the impact windows and doors and also get your renovations done with All Pro Construction Builders and allproconstructionbuilders.com. Also, check out Prize Picks. That's our fantasy sponsor, our daily fantasy sponsor. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. We've seen a lot of new people come in and try it. Of course, you can play more than just the NBA there. You can play NHL. Stanley Cup playoffs have been insane. Also can play MLB, MMA, golf, tennis, esports. It's all there. Go to prizepicks.com or go to Prize Picks on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Make sure you use the code 5, F-I-V-E. You get your initial deposit matched up to $100. This is not a scam. This is not like some of these other ones. They literally are just handing you free money to start playing. So go to prizepicks.com and use the code 5, F-I-V-E. All right, let's get back to it. The New York Knicks down 1-0 in this series. New Yorkers have bigger problems this morning. This comes in from Van Lee. We will take your comments here. Always do. Bill Simmons has a crush on the Miami Heat. I'm convinced he's linking us with some juicy superstars. Bill Simmons has bigger problems right now also. The Rangers last night lost. I was at a sports bar here with Jason Jackson and some of the Heat officials up here was watching the end of that. So New Yorkers, a little bit of mourning today because they put in a lot of stock into the Rangers, as did Boston fans into the Bruins, and that just collapsed last night for the Rangers. They lose to the Devils 4-0 in New Jersey. And so the attention is going to focus back on the Knicks, at least until the Yankees go on a prolonged losing streak. And the Knicks have a lot of stuff in turmoil going into tonight, okay? Jalen Brunson is on the injury report as questionable. Julius Randle has not played in a bit, tested the ankle before game 1, couldn't. And he's also listed as questionable. I think he's going to play tonight. I think Brunson's going to play too, but I believe that Randle will play tonight. We're also hearing that Mitchell Robinson is banged up, so we'll see how effective he can be. So that's 3 of their core players, and to me, 3 of their 4 most, maybe 5 most important players, you include Quickly there, for this particular series. And so they're a little bit banged up, but of course, nothing is as important as what's going on with Jimmy Butler. So let's start here with that. He's out. He was out in New York trolling yesterday. That's what he does, posting it on his Instagram account, walking the streets. I heard he wasn't like walking a lot of streets. Okay, so it's not like he was heading from the Heat's hotel, which is in the Chelsea area, all the way up to the Upper West Side and just paying a visit to people over at Columbia. Okay, he wasn't walking like that, but he was out in the city a little bit yesterday, and of course he's posting it because he's trolling everybody and he's trying to make people guess whether he's playing or not. This is my suspicion, okay, and I could be wrong. I think he's out tonight. And I think he's out tonight for a few reasons. I think first thing, we talked to some players yesterday. It was a little bit of a weird situation. If you don't know how these things work on the road, when the Heat decide not to practice, they will do availability often in their hotel. So usually it's in a ballroom or something along those lines. Yesterday, it was in basically a buffet break room. I mean, we couldn't hear the players over the smoothies being made. And Eric looked like he wanted to get done with his interview with us because he had started making a smoothie and had to go back and finish it. So it wasn't like we got a whole bunch of time with these guys. It was all group interviews. They kind of wanted us to leave, and so it was Strus, it was Martin, who always make themselves available. Credit to them. Kyle Lowry and also Eric Spoelstra. Bam got the day off from us. He's supposed to speak at shoot around today. But basically, listening to the players, they were trying not to say it, but you can tell when they're trying not to say it. And Caleb Martin kind of let it slip. They're not expecting Jimmy to play. I that's the impression that I get. I don't think they were trying to fool us with the way they were. I think they're just not expecting Jimmy to play. And also, I just don't think it's the prudent thing for Jimmy to play. And I think that's the bigger organizational decision here. You have between today and game 3, you got Wednesday off, Thursday off, Friday off. So if you count the past 2 days, where you hope that Jimmy was mostly staying off his feet, that gives you 6 days rest between him injuring it and playing again, potentially in game 3. And this comes in from Aaron Andrews. If he's 70 to 75%, would you ever give it a go? I would sit him. I would sit him. And I've been clear on this since it happened. I think you give him the 6 days rest. Look, a few reasons for that. Number one, I understand the urgency of trying to win a playoff series, and I understand that you don't want to say out loud that you got your split and you're good, but you got your split and you're good. Like, you got your split, okay? And unlike, the Milwaukee series where you got the split, Giannis was out, you totally relax, okay, and you got blown off the floor, which could happen, okay? It absolutely could happen. The Knicks are capable of it, and they're capable of it in front of this crowd. The Heat are not afraid of the Knicks in any way. So going home 1-1, if Jimmy is healthier at that point, you'll still feel pretty good about things. Like, I don't think they fear this team. Not that they fear Milwaukee, but I think there was more overall respect than there is for the Knicks roster. I mean, I've said it. If you look at, Randall, Brunson, and Barrett, they're kind of like 75% versions of Giannis, Holiday, and Middleton, right? So I don't think there's any fear here. And I mean, the same is true of Mitchell Robinson and Brook Lopez. They're like 75% versions, okay, of they're a good team. The Knicks are a good team. Milwaukee, if everybody was clicking, had the potential to be a great team. So I think if you go home 1-1 and Jimmy's healthier, you feel good about it. Honestly, and you feel like you got one in game 1, you can come up here and win again in New York. Do you think Jimmy Butler's going to be afraid of a game 7 in New York? I don't. I don't think this team is. I think that I mean, they won that game in Boston last year to send it back to Miami. They won that game 6 basically with Jimmy and Kyle Lowry doing pretty much everything. I don't think there's any concern there. I think the real concern is Jimmy goes out tonight, tweaks it again, and then he's out 2 or 3 games. And then what? Because you're not beating him over the course of – I mean, you miss 1 game, okay. But you miss 2 or 3 games in the series, you're not winning the series. So I would sit him tonight. I understand Heat fans, they want something to root for tonight, and they get it. And do I give them much of a chance if Jimmy doesn't play? No. I mean, you would start Caleb, right? I mean, he's played that role before. He likes the big stage. So I guess you never know. I guess Haywood Highsmith slides into Caleb's role off the bench. I would feel better about this if Tyler was healthy, I guess, because he could give you some of that scoring and you can run pick and roll with him and Bam. But again, they don't have him, so you just deal with what you have. This doesn't have a problem. They should 100% rest Jimmy this game. We can still have this game if the shooters show up. You can, again, I think they would play. They would try to play through Bam more, obviously. We would see how that would go. I really think it would be more about Caleb and the shooters. And then Kyle. The one thing in game 1 that we saw, Kyle and Gabe combined to play 60 minutes, which means they played 12 minutes together. And I think you're going to see a lot of that in this series. The Knicks don't really size up. At times they size down. They'll play Brunson with Quickly. And so, and again, something they play Grimes. They're not a huge team. I mean, they just beat a huge team in Cleveland, but they're not a huge team themselves. They're a lot bigger, obviously, when Randall plays. But it's not like they then play Randall at the 3 with Toppin and Robinson, or they go really big in the backcourt. They don't really do that stuff. Tibbs is, for all the talk about Tibbs, he's fairly conventional in the lineups that he plays. And so, he's going to play 8. That's what he always plays in the playoffs. He's going to give heavy minutes to his starters most of the time. So you kind of know what you're getting. This comes in from Alan. You need a Bonster Bam game. You do now. Our Brian Fonseca put this up yesterday. 4 games that you kind of knew Jimmy was out or compromised this year. Bam had like 1 incredible game, 2 okay games, and 1 awful game. Typically, when he looks around and there's no one else to help him, he steps up. That has been the case, and that's why we've been so frustrated when he doesn't step up when Jimmy is on the floor. He does not have Tyler to help him this time. I think Tyler would help in this particular situation. But we'll see. I mean, can you run more offense through Bam? I guess you could, but I think it would come down, honestly, to just Bam's overall energy, creating havoc on both ends and creating opportunities for others. This comes in from Campbell. What is it with these Tyler reports, though? The one Greg mentioned in the on the floor chat. Now that, if the report you're speaking of is the one he put in off the floor, and we always appreciate you guys subscribing to Off the Floor. We're starting to put a lot more stuff there. Obviously, we use Twitter, but who knows how long anybody's going to be using Twitter. So if you want the most heat content, go check out Off the Floor. I think what you're referring to is the Zach Lowe report. That the Heat feel they don't miss Tyler as much as they thought they would. Zach is a top 5 NBA reporter, and he may not be 2, 3, 4, or 5. I have enormous respect for Zach's work. He doesn't throw stuff out just kind of to throw it out like a lot of other guys do. I don't know who he's talked to about that. Here's where I come down on Tyler real quick. Tyler would be very helpful in this series in a lot of different ways, I think. Okay, because first thing, he's not afraid of this kind of stage. Second, they need his in-between scoring. They need his long-range scoring, for that matter. They need his, as Eric Reed talked about it yesterday on our podcast. You should check it out. It's on the YouTube channel as well. They need his creativity offensively. I believe that. But I also think what we're seeing a little bit is that his absence forces the Heat to get more to their preferred identity, which is gritty, grimy, defensive, muck it up, keep the scores down. I mean, the Knicks just cracked 100 points for the first time in 32 games against the Heat in the playoffs. That's an incredible stat that Eric Reed gave us yesterday, and it happened on the last possession. So Tyler being out forces the Heat to play a way that is more the organizational standard, okay? That doesn't mean they don't need Tyler to get to where we thought they wanted to go this year. I also think it's going to be an interesting conversation now this offseason, because if you do have a prolonged run that Tyler is not a part of, it kind of works the opposite way from what we were hoping to see, which is that you had a prolonged run that Tyler was a part of. So you could throw out last postseason and say you need to keep him long term. Pat may look at it and be like, okay, well, we got a certain way playing to the identity that I prefer. I can move Tyler now. So we'll see what happens this offseason. I said this all along, okay? And Pat always trades the third guy. You go back historically, all the way back to him coming in the mid-'90s. He comes in after he had to trade his first guy when he first came in because that's all he had. He had Glenn Rice, okay, to get Zoe. But if you go forward, okay, he gets Mashburn as the third guy, and then it doesn't really work in the playoffs for 4 years, and so he trades Mash to upgrade the roster, with Eddie Jones and Anthony Mason and Brian Grant. And then, that didn't end up working only because Zoe got sick. I think that team might have won a title. And then he builds a team, out with Dwayne, and he gets Shaq, right? But Shaq, he traded, in that case, he traded the second and third guys, right, with Dwayne. He traded Lamar and Karan to get Shaq, puts the team around Shaq and Dwayne, and then his third guy there is Eddie, but then he trades Eddie, right? Okay, and so, and he trades Eddie for a bunch of pieces. And well, it wasn't just Eddie, but primarily Eddie. And he ends up, picking up, that core that ended up, that core bench core, and well, not bench core, but role player core with Antoine Walker and Posey and Jay Will, and they end up winning a title. He typically trades the third guy, okay? Tyler is the third guy. I mean, whatever you want to think offensively, he's probably the second guy. But in terms of their overall build here, he's the third guy. And so I think there is a decent % chance of Tyler getting traded this offseason. I'm not going to put a number on it like I did 2 off seasons ago where I said 75%, and it blew up in my face. That's what I was hearing. That's what I was hearing from executives around the league and even from inside the organization. They didn't end up making a trade with him. They didn't try to trade him this offseason. They did not try to trade him. It's just that if they were going to get a whale type upgrade, he was the piece that likely would have had to been moved because he is, and this is a credit to him, he's an attractive asset, okay, in the terms of assets. So we'll see what happens this offseason. But I do think that Tyler's absence, I think kind of what Zach is getting at there is that the Heat want to play the way they're playing now. Tyler gives them more upside, considerably more upside, but he also keeps them in some ways from playing the way they're playing now, if that makes any sense. Because when Tyler's on the floor, even if his defense has improved, and I believe it has, particularly his off-the-ball defense, it gives them another guy, opponents another guy to hunt. And if you're going to play Strus, you're going to play Robinson, then you automatically have two guys that they're hunting. And if you're going to play more than just Strus or Robinson, you potentially have three guys that you're going to hunt. So anyway, let's pivot back to tonight, and we appreciate everybody who's commented here. Appreciate Manny for producing today. My thought tonight is, just to summarize, you sit Jimmy, you just try to muck it up, play physical, make them feel you as much as possible. You hope that Caleb and the shooters can carry you to an upset. And then you go home. You don't practice on Wednesday, obviously. They're going to fly. And then you have, they say they'll have probably one hard practice on Thursday, more of a film session on Friday, and you get yourself ready for a 3:30 ABC game on Saturday. That's the way that I would play this thing today. And honestly, I think that's the way they're going to play it. And with that being said, I'll show up at the arena. We'll see Jimmy on the court, and he'll be playing tonight. I just don't think it's necessarily prudent, and I don't think it's necessarily likely. So we'll see what happens. Check out the rest of the content on the channel. Not only do we have the Eric Reed episode up, but Brady and Greg did an episode last night that's going to be up on the feeds later today, but it's also going to be here. Have I been driving over there taking the train? No, I stay in the city. And I'm lazy. I should be taking the train, but if I don't walk, I usually Uber, which in New York is kind of pathetic, but it's an old habit. Gets Strus loose. That is the one guy, Alan. He hasn't had a game yet. So let's see. We saw a game from Gabe. We saw a game from Kyle. Kevin Love was terrific in the last game. Max was the one who came out yesterday and said at the hotel, he said, we didn't play very well yesterday. They didn't, but in particular, he didn't play very well. He takes this stuff very personally. Max is highly, highly competitive. I'll say this for the guys, everybody gets on, they have too many undrafted players and not enough pedigree, and I agree with that to a certain extent, and they shouldn't pay all of them, and we know what happened with Duncan. But I'll say this, three guys in particular, Caleb, Max, and Gabe are highly, highly, highly competitive people. They just are. Getting to know the three of them the past couple of years, they are Heat-type players. I said Caleb Martin, to me, is going to be here. I know he's got, 2 more years left on this contract after this one. He's going to be here a long time. He's going to be in Miami a long time. Like Caleb Martin, what he said yesterday, and I got like 6,000 likes on Twitter about this because Heat fans relate to this. What he said yesterday about, we came into the playoffs thinking we were an 8 seed. We got to keep that mentality. We got to go into tomorrow thinking we're 0-3. Like, that's not just like the Heat culture stuff he spews out because he's repeating it. Like, Caleb is that guy. He's that guy. Like, he is. We talk about keepers of the culture going forward. Caleb is, and Max and Gabe have a lot of that too. So we'll see what the three of them can prove at MSG if Jimmy doesn't play tonight. All right, thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back. You saw me at the Met Gala, wearing my U.S. Open t-shirt. What the hell was Dwayne wearing last night? Have a good day, everybody.